So we left Mary yesterday at the start of Jesus' ministry, creating the first sign that caused his disciples to believe. And so the question comes, why didn't Mary continue on in supporting Jesus' ministry by participating as other women did? You know, we see in John that after the wedding in Cana, Mary followed Jesus to Capernaum, but then it seems to drop off after that. And we know from the accounts in Luke and other places that women traveled with Jesus as his disciples. We know that that was something that happened earlier in his ministry and right up until the very end at the cross. We know that one of those women was Mary's sister, Salome. And we know that by comparing the accounts at the cross. And we know that Salome was not bashful. Perhaps that was a family trait. We recall her advocacy for her sons with Jesus. So we're going to break it up into three kind of discussion frames, just like we did on Tuesday. And so the first is Mary's unique discipleship challenge. Because Mary knew that Jesus was Lord. Elizabeth told her that. The angelic message transferred through the shepherds was that. Gabriel told her that. But Mary was also a sinful human being, and her perspective was impacted by her maternal relationship and all the hopes and fears that a mother has for her children. You know, someone once said that being a mother is like having your heart taken outside your body and put on your sleeve so it can be more easily damaged. And so, you know, we kind of recognize that special relationship that moms have. And Jesus kind of responds to Mary's discipleship challenge. Remember, a certain woman from the crowd raised her voice and said to him, "Blessed is the womb that bore you and the breasts which nursed you." And Jesus could have said many things. He could have said, "Yeah, you're right. My mom's amazing. In fact, an angel told her she was blessed. And in fact, Elizabeth, that righteous Elizabeth, told her she was blessed." But Jesus doesn't say that. He says, more than that, blessed are those who hear the word of God and keep it. That was his rejoinder. So we're going to take a look in the first discussion frame about Mary's impact and how that would have influenced her discipleship. Edersheim writes, "The influence exerted upon Jesus' early education, especially by his mother, seems implied throughout the gospel history." And we know that, you know, just as there was an initial fulfillment of Isaiah 7:14 with Hezekiah, the ultimate fulfillment would be with Jesus and Mary. But we recognize the role of both those righteous women, Abijah and Mary. One of the things in the Isaiah prophecy was that the child will learn to reject evil and choose good. And we read in 2 Chronicles that Hezekiah began to reign, and his mother's name was Abijah, the daughter of Zechariah, and he did what was right in the sight of the Lord according to all that his father David had done. So he wasn't getting that from, Hezekiah was not getting that from his father, he was getting that from the righteous Abijah. She is the exemplar of the godly queen mother's impact. Now, in the Davidic line, the queen mother was a very, very important role. And that is what Elizabeth is saying when she says that the mother of my Lord should come to me. Before the king assumed the throne, he was subject to his mother, and that's echoed in the experience when Jesus was 12 at the temple and the aftermath. Then he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. The Queen Mother's job is kind of outlined in the book of Proverbs. Again, Edersheim in Sketches of Jewish Social Life writes, "The book of Proverbs introduces the Queen Mother as training the heir to the throne in the knowledge and fear of the Lord." And I cannot imagine that Mary did not take some time with Jesus around Proverbs fulfilling this role. And you know, these words in Proverbs 31 ring out throughout Jesus' ministry. The words of King Lemuel, the utterance which his mother taught him, "What, my son, and what son of my womb, and what son of my vows? Open your mouth for the speechless, and the cause of all those who are appointed to die. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy, which is kind of a nice summary of Jesus' ministry, isn't it? And one of the things that the Queen Mother was supposed to do was ensure that the king-to-be fulfilled the Mosaic ordinances. And one of the Mosaic ordinances that was a special impact to the king-to-be, the king in training, was writing out a copy of the book of Deuteronomy. So Brother Harry Whitaker pointed this out, that undoubtedly this is something that Jesus would have done in preparation. And it shows up because Jesus quotes from Deuteronomy more than any other book in the Old Testament. So that's one of the things that Mary would have been ensuring that Jesus would have done. We read in Deuteronomy 17, "And it shall be when he sits on the throne of his kingdom that he shall write for himself a copy of this law in the book. And it shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God and be careful to observe all the words of this law and these statutes." So, discussion questions. What do you think Mary said or did that impacted Jesus in such a positive way? If you were in Mary's place, how would you reconcile the paradox of your Lord being your child? It is objectively true that Mary was blessed. However, Jesus did not acknowledge this in his response. What is Jesus teaching us in his response? Again, these questions are choose your own adventure. If you want to spend all the time on one, that's great. If you want to ignore some, that's fine too. Really make the learning your own. You have 15 minutes. 1 minute warning, 1 minute warning. Coming back together in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we're back. I have to say, this is so awesome, like going around and hearing the discussions. Someone mentioned in one of the groups that you can see Mary's influence in the parables, because many of Jesus' parables are quite, in the home, right? Even the parable of the mustard seed, that would be a parable that would be a very maternal kind of parable. Okay, on to part 2. How did Mary understand Jesus' ministry? So she knew through direct revelation that Jesus was the Son of David and of God. And Mary's song seems aligned with Jesus' words and actions. He has scattered the proud in the imagination of their hearts. He has put down the mighty from their thrones and exalted the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things, and the rich he has sent away empty. But how did she understand it? At age 12, we know she didn't, right? At age 12, they did not understand when Jesus said he must be in his Father's house. Jesus went back to Nazareth with his parents and obeyed them. But Mary kept on thinking about all that had happened. So Mary's lack of understanding about what was going on in the temple prompted her constant thought about Jesus' messianic role. She also realized that at some point she would need to obey him as her Lord. So here are the part 2 discussion questions. From the direct revelation that Mary received, what was Mary expecting Jesus' ministry to be like? What does Mary's song suggest that she thought Jesus would do? Mary didn't understand Jesus when he was 12. As she watches Jesus grow from 12 to 30, when he grew in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and men, what were the aspects of Jesus' future work that Mary kept thinking about? Right? We know she kept thinking about it. And when did Mary expect that she would become subject to him? You have 15 minutes. So we're going to cut this section shorter to give you more time to talk about the account in Mark 3 where they're obviously in conflict. So this is a 1 minute warning for this section. So 1 minute. Coming back in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're back. So I really want us to have time to talk about this. So there's an account that definitely appears to suggest that Jesus and Mary are in conflict. And it seems to be the fulfillment of Psalm 69. I've become a stranger to my brothers and an alien to my mother's children, because zeal for your house has eaten me up. Now, where is that psalm applied to Jesus' ministry? Remember? Zeal for your house has eaten me up. Yeah, Sherry? Right, when he cleanses the temple. And so it seems from the account in John that the family is on board with Jesus' ministry. They follow him to Capernaum, and then he cleanses the temple. And perhaps this is where the lack of understanding of Jesus' ministry really starts to take root, when Jesus cleanses the temple for the first time. And we know that it was quite emphatic from John that his brothers did not believe in him. And in fact, their lack of belief was dangerous to Jesus, right? Because they encouraged him to go to a place where people were seeking to kill him. So, we had 4 kids. There were plenty of times where there was attempted murder, but no one ever went through with it. So here's the account, right? The account in Mark 3 that's also in Matthew and Luke. So Jesus says, when he's told that his mother and siblings are outside wanting to speak with him, he says, "Who is my mother or my brothers?" And he looked around in a circle at those who sat about him and said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of God is my brother and my sister and my mother." So did Mary not believe? Well, if we look at the text in Mark, there's earlier on in the chapter, there's the suggestion that those from beside him, Jesus' kin, it's translated in some way, but it really means those from beside him. It's translated in King James out of his mind, or it really means knocked from standing. It really doesn't have any suggestion of mental instability. It means carried away or lost perspective. We know that he was too busy to eat. He was so involved in the ministry. And the family's concern that Jesus would be killed, that's quite prominent in the Mark account. People were recognizing him as the Christ. With the Pharisees and the Herodians sought to destroy him. He was so popular, he literally ran the risk of being trampled. Don't forget earlier, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, God willing, the people that knew him best in Nazareth tried to kill him. So, are we invited to look at Mary's experience here like Miriam's experience with Moses, as Jesus is the prophet like unto Moses? We know that there was a time when Miriam spoke against Moses, We know that Simeon foretold that Jesus would be a sign spoken against. We know that Miriam said, "Has the Lord spoken only through Moses?" So was Mary confused about Jesus' leadership? We know that Miriam was shut out of the camp for a time. We know that Jesus apparently excludes Mary here, doesn't even come out to talk to her. And Miriam learns and is restored to Moses. Seems like Mary learns when her other sons don't and is restored to Jesus. So, how did the conflict between Jesus and his half-siblings impact Mary? Why did Mary go to see Jesus? What do you think she wanted to say to him? In what way was Mary not doing the will of God? How did Mary understand Jesus' rebuke? How did it make her feel? What did Mary learn from Jesus' rebuke about her own discipleship and the purpose of his ministry? And why didn't Mary follow Jesus like other women from Galilee? Again, choose the one that fits best with what your group would like to discuss. Those are all very meaty. And so I'd invite you to start your discussion now. Okay, 1 minute warning, 1 minute. Okay, coming back in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So thank you so much for engaging in some very rich discussion. My personal thought is that in this account in Mark 3, that there were two things going on, that the brothers and the siblings were kind of doubting what was going on with Jesus, but that Mary was concerned for his welfare. And she was a little bit confused about the direction that Jesus' ministry was taken, but that she did not believe. She was concerned about his welfare. I mean, all the moms out there, the fact they didn't have time to eat. What, you're not eating? Exactly, yeah. So why didn't she follow Jesus as a disciple? And you would have think that would have been so deeply in Mary's heart. Like, I want to see these things. I want to hear him. And I think the conclusion that I've come to is that Mary knew that she needed to stay at home. She needed to keep her family together because they were splitting about the role of Jesus' ministry. And that was a sacrifice that she made to keep her family together. One of many sacrifices that she made throughout her life, one of many swords that pierced her. So tomorrow, God willing, we're going to take a look at those occasions of the sword piercing her, that horrible incident with Herod and the destruction of those children. We're going to take a look at the incident at the synagogue in Nazareth, where those who knew Jesus best tried to kill him. We're going to take a look at the crucifixion. And we're going to take a look at Mary's faith through all those things. So thank you. And I want to be respectful of Brother Richard's time. So before you leave, could you please turn the chairs around so Brother Richard can get started promptly? Thank you.